Hey, we're live, everybody. Hello and welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate. This is episode 171, I believe. It's a lot of episodes. I'm Ray. This is Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And Dan is a fellow bearded man of real estate. And we're delighted to bring you the show today, in part because we always love being right. And man, are we right today? We Just to let you know, there's been a lot of Zillow news. We're going to cover the Zillow news and how we were right in the Zillow news. And then we're going to talk about home prices and what's happening. Because we've been telling people for about a year and a half or 2 years, be watching for this headline, because as the market starts to slow a little bit, the incendiary headline will be blank. We've been telling all of you this. If you want to get it, feel free to drop it in the comments. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time. We're also broadcasting on Clubhouse. So we have some lovely people up on the stage with us. So if you're following us on Clubhouse, don't hesitate to follow them, because they're also great people. We can vouch for the ones with the little green badges. And go to the Real Estate Networking Club and follow that little green house, because if you follow that house, you'll be notified of other great rooms just like this one. And if you follow me and Dan and hit that bell, then you'll be notified of whenever we go live, which is usually twice a week mainly. I mean, it's whenever we do the show, and then the whenever we can do the show prep show that's on Tuesdays, where we just wax poetic for 30 minutes about these headlines. D Jones is joining us. She says, "Hey, Beards, what's up, D?" Well, go ahead, Dan.
You froze. Every time, because we have.
There you go.
I did.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Yeah.
So literally every time we use what's called a StreamYard to go live here, we pay for it now. So there used to be the little duck up by my head or Ray's head or whatever, but
yeah,
literally every time what we're looking at the kind of production view, and there's private chat, so I can send things to Ray, and then there's comments, and every time I glance over and I'm all, StreamYard commented every time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. StreamYard commented. There we are. Live viewer comments will show up here.
And all it says is it just tells you that live viewer comments are going to show up here, and you can display them, whatever. And I get fooled every single time.
StreamYard is always our first comment.
Yeah, there you go. You can.
D was
it's like
today.
It's like a MySpace. Remember MySpace? Tom was always your first friend.
Yeah. Dude, D says she loves my cranberry sauce. If you haven't popped over to my Instagram and tried my cranberry sauce, woo, it'll light you up. It's good. It's so good.
If you don't like cranberry sauce.
Yeah. Julie Moon says, "Good afternoon, my dogs. Great to see you. It's a beautiful week to talk real estate." Yeah. Okay. She always slides that in there. She's also joining us on Clubhouse Live too.
Well, can I say good afternoon, my hogs?
Hogs. Yeah. You can. Well, one thing is for sure. I mean, probably the biggest news of the week that I know most of you are following is that the head coach for OU bounced right before he was embarrassed by the SEC. So good move by him. Good career move. Now he's at USC, I think. So interesting. I do want to mention.
We're pretty stoked.
Yeah. LL. She knows they were about to get throttled. But anyway, that's for a different type of show. Yeah, I haven't eaten. I'm gonna have to have a little bite to eat during the show, so don't mind me. But I will say this: if you are watching this live and you're like, "Oh my goodness, when are they gonna get?" We're gonna get to we promise we're gonna get to these stories. We have some phenomenal stories from Zillow. They backed out of some contracts. There's more iBuyer stuff happening. They're getting sued by shareholders. So we're going to talk about all that, and then the ramifications. That's the main thing we're going to hit on, because one company struggling. They happen to be one of the largest real estate companies in the world. But also, what are the ramifications for other iBuyers, and how will this impact the greater market? And that's where we want our industry experts like you to chime in and tell us what's happening in your market. What do you think this will do? So we're going to talk about that. We're also talking about home prices. I mean, we were dead on right.
We weren't even in the ballpark. We literally hit it out.
We were dead on right.
You couldn't be any more correct than we were.
And I think we started telling this like 2 years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago. We were like, guys, just watch for this headline. You'll know that the market's starting to slow and people are trying to get incendiary. It's been a while.
It's been since the Rona, but we stopped seeing this specific thing and we started predicting it. But it's been a while. We've been predicting this. And
did you know that you could buy a house with like $1 million of government-backed mortgage?
I didn't until yesterday.
There you go. It just increased the limits. We have a couple of experts I'm hoping to bring up that can hang out with us in the Clubhouse room that will tell us a little more about what this means and if it's like a major impact or minor impact. And the last thing we're going to talk about is home sales. What did they do in October, and were they deterred by the increase in interest rates? Because we've been talking about the interest rates going up and what the Fed's going to do. How did that impact the market as a whole, and how will it impact us moving forward? So those are the main
That part
stories
was
in the show.
unexpected, in my opinion. Reading through that story was a little bit unexpected.
That part was, yeah, I would say that's unexpected, but I don't know. We'll talk about that because, what does that lead to? Because, we talked about 2 weeks ago, if that happens, what it could lead to. And I think we were dead on right there too. So that's why the thumbnail, it says like, who could have seen this coming or something like that. And it says, we did. Like we were on top of it. But it's not just we love to toot our own horns. Don't get me wrong, but it's not just tooting our own horns. It's the fact that if you watch a show like this or any other real estate news show that's worth their salt, or listen to an economist that knows what they're talking about, then you could have also predicted this. It's not rocket science, but there's a big difference between being an industry expert and being an industry writer who's going after the clickbaity headlines. And that's one of the reasons why we don't get a lot of the clickbaity. I mean, we try some clickbaity headlines and everything, but everybody knows that we don't do that. We'll tell you like it is, and we'll be honest with you. And so we would just want to give people in the industry one place that they can go to stay up on the news and figure out what's happening. And if you could spend an hour with us, hopefully it gives you a great overview, and then you kind of know everything that's happening from then on, and you don't have to, listen to a whole bunch of things or go to a whole bunch of articles and get those articles from there. And Dan, you look frozen. Are you frozen or am I frozen? One of us is frozen. I don't know who, because I could be frozen on Dan's side. Dan, you're frozen on my side. And I wouldn't know what you were saying anyway. I've got a feeling it's me then. Oh, the joys of live. And the connection was perfect until just then. Maybe somebody can comment and tell me. Oh, no, that was Dan. Dan just bowed out. Well, since he bowed out, we're going to wait a couple of minutes. He's still in the clubhouse room, so I see him there. Dan, hang on. Okay, Dan's frozen. DJ says Dan's frozen. All right, we'll bring him back in just a second. But if you're catching this as a replay on YouTube, be sure you can go down to the comments, and in the comments of the description, you'll see everything we're going to talk about in the major news articles that we cover with a little timestamp. You can click that timestamp. When you do, you'll just zoom right to that part of the show. And so it makes it real easy for you to go to the part that you care about most. You can also subscribe to the show on YouTube and then hit the bell, and you'll be notified of any other videos we put out. Specifically, those that are like, we do something called chops, just kind of play on the word with the whole beard thing. Chops are each one of the articles chopped up into like a 3 or 4 minute slice. So if you can't catch the full hour show, we also make that a way for you to keep up with what's going on. So, and since this is live, oh, there's Dan. I was just going to say we'll wait another second on him. He's back. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I know. No idea what happened. Just when internet's fine, everything's fine. Just everything stopped.
That's okay. I told everybody how they could catch the show and do the replay too.
And then now this just helps add to the banter for all the people that love the banter.
Yeah. I told them how to fast forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey Dan, while I'm eating this banana, and before we get into these headlines, would you tell people what this show is actually all about?
I actually would love to, and I'll stretch it out so you can hopefully get through most of the banana. But when Ray and I met,
I can eat banana quick.
I'm just going to leave that out there in the ether. When Ray and I met at a Mets game in 1986.
Oh yeah.
Just kidding. I had an idea back then in 1986 when I was 13 years old. I had a beard back then.
Right.
And I had an idea for a show called The Bearded Men of Real Estate. And when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What's that, Dan? He
once cooked a 25-pound turkey in 8 hours. Stayed there, tended the whole thing, did the whole thing, did not leave its side, and it was the juiciest turkey you've ever tasted.
So the juiciest turkey I've ever tasted was actually like a 15-pounder. And it did take a long time to cook. I can't remember the exact time, but the recipe I used was probably unbeatable. But I have to say that these days we've been getting smoked turkeys.
Dude, okay. That's where I was going. We smoke our turkeys. So we have a Traeger, and it's about 6 hours has been the average over the last few Thanksgivings. But dude, it comes out the juiciest, the best turkey you've ever had. Ever.
Well, let me give this tip. I actually put this on my reels as well. You can create a broth with that, or maybe this was on my stories. I should probably make a reel for it. You can create a broth with the smoked turkey and then you can make smoked turkey and dumplings. Oh my gosh. It's like, I mean, my mouth is watering just thinking about it. It
I
is
know.
so good.
I'm still missing all the leftover turkey because Channy makes homemade rolls.
Oh yeah.
Or biscuits, and they're the best thing ever. And there's nothing better. And I'm still missing it. That's why I'm thinking about it. That's why I went with that story, that fake story about Ray today. It's just, dude, biscuits toasted in the oven for a minute, and then you put some mayonnaise and some salt. That's it.
Mayonnaise, really?
Dude, mayonnaise, salt,
It's
and the
better.
turkey. Dude, it's the
Big butter.
best sandwich
Oh,
you'll
and the
ever
turkey.
have.
Okay. All right, in the smoked turkey. Yeah, that's good.
Dude,
Anyway,
anyway.
go ahead.
But we digress. That was just for the banter lovers. No, but obviously I noticed he's a beautifully bearded man. But what I also noticed is that he loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but just to humans in general. So the show is about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
That's right. And one of the ways we believe in being more is by knowing what in the world is going on, which is one of the reasons why we do the show.
And also predicting the future.
And we do like to predict the future too. So thank you guys for joining us. Please don't hesitate to share it. Just one more note. Speaking of bananas, did you know that people eat more bananas than monkeys? Did you know that? I mean, think about it. When was the last time you saw a person eating a monkey? All right, you ready to get into the headlines?
Wait. Good job.
It's one of my favorite jokes. Okay.
I was really contra. Well, there's 7 billion people in the world. How many monkeys are there? Oh.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the headlines. All right, the first article up for grab. This is where we get into the world of interesting. Get a call. We're gonna end that call. Sorry, Clubhouse. I haven't figured out a way to like put my phone on no calls and still be able to connect through Clubhouse. So I do have an alternate phone that I may have to. What's up, Jan and Justin? Thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate you guys joining the show. All right, so right off the bat, we have some Zillow stuff. Let me share my screen so you guys can see these two articles. One, the most recent one is the one I'm going to share mainly from Inman. It says basically the same thing as the other, but it has additional details. So where's that Chrome tab? Sorry, there it is. Bam. Live production.
I love when you announce what you're doing for the listeners at home.
I mean, I just, they can sit in silence. Zillow cancels 400 Zillow offers contracts due to closing restraints. So news broke yesterday or day before that Zillow was canceling existing contracts. This is a definite switch or a turn from what they initially said. They said initially that they were going to support everything that they were currently under contract with. They said that publicly, and now they turn off 400 contracts, letting the people keep the earnest money. They have approximately 8,172 contracts with home sellers still nationwide. The news is the latest ongoing iBuying saga that began for the company in early November when it announced it would shut down its iBuying business. According to the Phoenix Business Journal, which I think that's where Dan first saw it, the home sellers will receive compensation for the canceled contracts, which includes the earnest money and a varying bonus for agreeing to terminate the contract by November 30th. So in other words, they said, we're going to give you the earnest money, and hey, here's a bonus too if you'll terminate this by November 30th for us. Which that was yesterday. So we'll see how many of those actually
I didn't know that part. That's crazy.
Yeah. They said that we went to Zillow because this is one of the people that are selling their homes. We went to Zillow because they told us that they were a preferred partner of Minto Properties, the building contractor in Florida. So a building contractor said, yeah, Zillow's our preferred partner. So they went there to sell their house to them.
That's a no-brainer. You're getting a great offer price. They're probably offering at market or higher than market value. And then they're also a partner. That'll be seamless, right?
Right. And is Julie Moon's on the show today. Marietta, Georgia is where this is located, Julie. So the home seller's name is Jerry Culpepper. So there you go. Go get that listing.
He's available right now to sell his house. And he's probably a little disgruntled at Zillow, so you can use that to your advantage.
Our estimated closing for the new property is between January 2022 and March 2022. So Zillow put our closing date as of February 18th, 2022 for contract purposes only. All right. So commonly we'll have people that want to move, but they can't move right away. And if they can't move right away, one of the things that they do is that they will set a closing date out further. But what I, as a professional real estate agent, recommend is doing a rent back. So you close on the home. So that part is done and there's no mystery and there's very little that could go wrong in those situations. And then the seller rents it back, right? Or the buyer rents it back to the seller. So the buyer owns the property, but as they are owning that property, they're renting it currently back to the seller. So the seller stays for an extended period of time. And different loans have limits on what you could do and all that kind of stuff too. So you have to watch that. But that's commonly what we like to do because it removes a lot of that insecurity. Well, in this situation, I don't know if maybe they were represented or unrepresented, but they didn't know to do that. So Zillow just moved the closing date out. And now Zillow's saying, we could close at any time, but now we're going to cancel it.
Yeah. And yeah, I want to hear, I mean, if there's any, non-realtors on here, I'd love to hear. Yeah, I know. Isn't that comment great?
Julie Moon says, sorry, what did you say? I was just on a call with my new client, Mr. Culpepper. I'm glad you scrunched that one up before Matt LaMarche could. He was late to the show, so he totally missed this lead generation opportunity directly from our show into Marietta, Georgia. Culpepper said that Zillow offered him $3,500 for canceling the contract, which accounts for a $1,000 deposit and $2,500 of that bonus. Meanwhile, Buckeye, Arizona home sellers Tony and Serena Miller said the portal offered them $10,000 for canceling the contract on their 1,580 square foot home. So they're where are they? Buckeye, Arizona. Is Dusty? Is she with us today? There's Arizona lead for you, Tony and Serena Miller. That purchase price was set at $418,000. Serena said we expect them to hold up their end of the deal. We thought this deal was a done deal. So I had a situation, I don't think it was through Zillow, but it was through another investor where one of my clients said they were moving here from Florida and they said, oh, our house is under contract in Florida with a big investor. It's a done deal. Nothing's going to go wrong. They can close it anytime, they told us.
And they didn't.
I said, okay, great. But do you have a backup offer? They didn't. And I asked them and they didn't. They just wouldn't tell me. I said, well, do you have a backup offer? Get a backup offer. You should get a backup offer. Your agent's still marketing it for backup offers. Turns out the seller backed out a couple of months ago. And I don't think it was related with this, but it sounds fishy, kind of similar. So the person backed out and then they did get another offer and wound up going under contract again, which was great, but it really put some pressure on their current agreement because they had to go under contract really quickly, get everything taken care of so they could close at the same time because their current contract, we couldn't move the closing date for some reason.
Which possibly means terms, price weren't as favorable for that seller. They had to get it going,
Yep. All right. So Zillow spokesperson Matt Creamer told Phoenix Business Journal that the company is doing its best to compensate the home sellers for the inconvenience and anticipates no more home sellers outside of the 400 who've already been notified will face cancellations. This is what the reasoning was. For a small subset of customers closing later in 2022, they said January, March, we determined that we can no longer support their closing and are releasing our earnest money to them.
That's a funny way to say that.
Isn't that that's very political way to say we're out of here.
Moving forward, when I'm in escrow with a buyer and we want to cancel, I'm going to say, we thought this was a done deal, but we can no longer support this closing.
We can no longer support this closing.
We can no longer support this. I'm in.
There we go.
That's a
good language, really. Typically, homes close in 30 to 45 days. Each customer's circumstances and homes are unique, but unfortunately, we don't discuss particulars of each situation. When inquired about the cancellations, a company spokesperson reiterated Kramer's comment. Then it kind of goes into the history of what we already know and we've already covered, how Zillow announced that it was going to stop iBuying, and then it announced that it was going to stop iBuying forever, and then it announced that it was going to liquidate 7,000 homes, and then it said, oh wait, there's 18,000 homes. And then now they said, but we're going to support everything that we currently have under contract, and now currently they say we're going to support everything we have under contract except for 400 of them that are closing late in 2020. Okay. So this is talk about the lawsuits that are about to happen. It says over the past month, Zillow stocks tumbled as the company continued to face public scrutiny and several securities fraud lawsuits. So that's a big hairy deal. The company opened on NASDAQ at $53 a share, down from the previous day's close of 54. They said the question all this begs whether home sellers with Zillow offers contracts in place could pursue a class action claim of their Zillow of their own if Zillow continues to cancel the contracts and the iBuying division winds down.
I
It's
mean,
clearly possible.
we can
We kind of
pontificate on that because they have lawsuits that have come in, but it's you're going to get into it in a second, but it's from a way different focus because of things that the CEO said and other executives said. This is more, well, you were under contract and they had an out and they backed out. It's not very savory to do that, but that's what they did because they could no longer support your closing.
Quote unquote.
Is there any, anyone listening, watching, whatever, like, could a seller bring a lawsuit? It's just a buyer canceling, isn't it?
They could. So that was my thing too. Like, yes, they could bring a lawsuit, but if the contract has an out for them in which they leave their earnest money, a lot of people look at earnest money as, hey, this guy's really earnest about buying this house because he put up money. That's not what earnest money is. Maybe that's what it was, but that's not what it is. Now, the earnest money limits the lawsuit in general. I'm not an attorney, blah, blah, blah. Limits the lawsuit that the seller could bring if the buyer cancels the contract. It may also limit what the buyer could bring if the seller cancels the contract because you get back your earnest money. So you put up the earnest money and it limits the buyer's exposure to further damage if they leave and it's of no fault of the seller. They just decide, I don't want to buy this house. Here's your earnest money. I'm going to the next one. There's really nothing in those situations, in my experience, that the seller can do. So I don't know whether there's recourse or not. I'm sure every seller right now is going to an attorney saying, hey, you want to sue Zillow with me? And the attorney's like, yes. But how much is it going to cost them? Are they going to have to pay Zillow attorney fees too? Because those are probably $1 million a minute.
Right.
And
it's in the other one, the one we're going to get to, it mentions, that all these, like, that there's 2 lawsuits that came in from the shareholders, but there's a company, I don't know where it is, New York or something, but they literally put out a press release saying, hey, if you have anything against Zillow, we'll write up a lawsuit for you.
Yeah, here, all the billboards that say, were you hit by a Mack truck? Call us 888-9818, whatever. Now it's going to be like, were you wronged by Zillow? Call us.
Wait. Can Zillow no longer support your closing?
Exactly. Were you under contract with Zillow and they backed out? Do you want your money and you want it now? This is a whole new commercial that needs to come
and
out.
I'd wonder, like, I have no idea, but what kind of contingencies do they give them? Are they standard? Were they outside of those contingencies? And did the contract they signed say, hey, even if we're outside of contingencies, we can still choose to not support this closing? I'm sorry, but I'm using it. We're going to not support your closing. I'm going to use it.
I'm sorry, we can't support this closing. It doesn't really leave much room because, although the people can say, why?
You just can't.
So yeah, there's 400 houses that they're backing out. The effect on the market is probably fairly small. You're going to have some additional inventory hitting various markets. My question is, if they could sue, what would they sue for? It's probably the price differentiation and what Zillow initially offered them and then what they're getting from the free market.
So if they gave me $450 and I got $420 after they canceled, but it's also okay. So a lot of these
pain and suffering, right? You can add triple.
There's got to be pain and suffering because my main thing is a lot of these, and when we get to it, but it says they canceled on mostly new constructions. But so some people were like in a regular 30-day escrow. Like, imagine that. That's like new construction. Like, dude, I don't know when it's going to be ready. These days it's tough. So that's why the contracts were set to close between January and March, and they just set the closing date for February. But it's like, what if you were in a 30-day escrow and like, boom, I got the money. I got more money than I could ever want. And now you're like, could they possibly just not ever sell? And, sellers are kind of counting on that, especially if they're buying another house. And what about that escrow? If they were in escrow on an up-leg property going, dude, big investor, we're good. They have more money than God. We're good. We're closing. We will close this. And now they have to back out of that one as well. Like,
I think, My non-attorney opinion, I think where they could get them is in the assurance given outside of the contract. If they have emails, if they have notices, if they have marketing pamphlets, if they have stuff that Zillow said, "Hey, work with us because once we go under contract, we're
we're,
definitely closing.
we're
There's no way
golden,
we're not closing. We're
right?
investors. We're definitely going to buy your house. Don't
We
worry
don't care
about it."
about
If they
repairs. We don't care
have
about appraisal. Yeah.
Right, and if they have that kind of stuff in writing, I think that's where Zillow could get in trouble. But if there isn't that, if it's just a marketing scheme of like, "Hey, we're really big, we could buy your house, we could close all the way," if they have words that are more passive than authoritative, then I don't see that there's anything here that a
Can
buyer
I
could do.
can I go further into minutia on this? What about the actual agents that represent Zillow? It's not just an entity that randomly, the AI that gives you the offer. It's an agent. What if they're like, dude, we're good. We have this much,
Yeah,
obviously you've
that's
seen.
what
What
because
about
those
that part?
agents in general, a lot of the agents may not have had the type of training that some of the other firms have as to
Possibly, maybe you're
don't
right.
don't say this. And so if they're like, I'm working for Zillow, no big deal. And they're like texting this to their client, no big deal. We're definitely going to buy this. We're Zillow. What do you
Yeah,
think we
dude,
are?
it's a no-brainer. You're getting 40 grand
Yeah.
higher than market value. Dude, take
Yeah.
this offer. We'll close. No, don't even worry about it. And there's text
Yeah. We're
messages.
guaranteed close. If they said anything like that, then that's where it could get them. But on the flip side of that, because they're part of Zillow, they may have had so much additional training and legal, like, do not say this. Here's what you can say. Here's what you can't say. And so if they were incredibly well trained, I don't see that there's any way that the buyer could go after them. But I want to see what is
Yeah.
going to come of this.
So it's going to be
Uh,
interesting, but I'm going
Julie
to
Moon with
predict
another great point says that, but those new construction buyers are out big time because new is often a non-refundable deposit. Yeah, that's true too.
that's a
So here they
really good
are,
point.
non-refundable deposit, and they're out somebody purchasing their home. Well, it's going to be really interesting if they have to take less for their home and they still don't now because they're taking less for their home and the increase of rates and all that stuff. Now they no longer qualify for what they could normally build.
Yeah. What if they can't afford? What if it was, they were crunching the numbers and it was like, all right, it works at these numbers, but it won't work
Mhm.
if you don't get this number. I've had those sellers who are like, hey, we'll sell our house at this, but we need this to buy this.
Right.
And obviously I've made it work, but what if now it can't work? I mean, I don't know. I'm going to predict that there's going to be something brewing from sellers, from regular humans that were wronged by this. Will it go anywhere? I don't know, but there's got to be something. There's going to be a lot of angry people about this, and we have more
Here's an,
coming up.
here's another good question from Julie Moon. Can those Zillow agents go after their commission and sue Zillow? Because their
No,
client
but
who's also there. Well, I don't know. If
depends
it
on what they
says
were
in the
told.
contract, it says in our contract that you can demand payment whenever they go under contract. So like I could invoice somebody right after going under contract. Anything I do from contract to close is a bonus, but I could technically invoice somebody right away. So that's a good question. Or how about the other agent representing? Maybe there was an agent between them. Could they go after? Now I wonder
Because
if it
there
was
was
just those. I wonder if it's clients that never had an agent that those are the ones they're canceling, but the clients that have an agent on the other side, they're not gonna be able to get out of. I don't know.
that's a good quote.
Julie, I mean, despite what you say, I think she's a smart one, Dan. She says, I tell all
Yeah,
my clients,
I
ain't
agree.
no reason to scream and shout until the money hits the bank account. Nothing is done until it's done. Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, I think what
I
are we
love that.
assuming on these? We're assuming that they were an iBuyer, so the seller was unrepresented. That's what we're assuming, right?
Well, or it's a dual agency situation in which Zillow is representing themselves and the property they're acquiring.
That could be even sketchier and even more hot water. But I'm sure there's instances because once we started seeing these crazy prices, I would go to Zillow and say, hey, give us an offer. If you're offering on this house, I want to know what you're, and then I'd take that to my clients.
Yep.
They often weren't the best offer. And then the last couple listings I had, the most recent ones, I went to do that before the news hit of them backing out and stopping iBuying. In areas that they were previously working, all of a sudden there was like, oh, it's not available in this area. And I was like, what's going on? And then
the canary.
Yeah.
Well, I
that was a
tagged
canary.
Glenda in the clubhouse room because I know she's been talking about this for a long time. When Zillow and iBuyer represents themselves and acquires property and also has the ability to change data. it kind of creates it could be a potential dangerous situation. So I'd love to have her thoughts on it. I'm sure she'll probably release a video soon. I was hoping that she could join us today, but
Well, and
she's super busy.
I think I saw Andy flash his mic and David's got his open. So do they want to go?
Okay. Yeah, here, let me bring up Clubhouse. All right, let's go with Andy first. What say you, bud?
Yeah, I mean, I sent that article to you, one of the articles to you this morning. What I thought was interesting is that you were just saying is that how many of these are represented. You talk about Mr. Culpepper here in Marietta. You know, Marietta is a really hot market for us right now, and I would think that he would be able to get that back under contract really quick. But if he's not represented, then I wonder if that's how they're pushing out some of these, is that these people don't realize how to write a contract or read a contract, and they're just pushing these people out so they don't have to. All they're giving up basically is the earnest money. That's my only question: is how many of these houses are actually represented?
Yeah, and $1,000 deposit for Zillow. I mean, that ain't much. I would have probably gone after a little more, especially in this market. So really good point, Andy. Thanks, man. And let's see, who else had their mic open? Who else flashed? I think I'm going to refresh. Did anyone else want to comment on that on the in the Clubhouse while we have the mic open? No. Okay. All right, we're good on that. Antonio, what's up, man? He says, "What up, bearded man? What's up, bud?" All right. So let's go to the next one, which is also Zillow focused article. It says Zillow hit with multiple shareholder lawsuits. So the company also warns investors to not take TRC Capital's mini tender offer to purchase 2 million stock shares, blah, blah, blah. All right. So let me give you the brass tacks of this, and then we'll kind of read into it. Basically, a company can say shareholder, no, everything's totally fine. It's great. We love what we're going to do. We're doubling, tripling down on it. There's no need to worry. It's fine. And then in the behind the scenes, it's like a firestorm of we're shutting this down, we're shutting that down, we're getting out of this business completely. A company can't do that. Well, they're not supposed to do that. And if there's evidence that they were saying, no, it's fine, everything's fine. I'm picturing the dog sitting at a table with fire all around them, drinking coffee. No, everything's fine. It's totally fine. If they were doing that while on the one hand starting to shutter this stuff without telling their investors and kind of misleading investors that will continue to be buying, misleading investors that they're going to support all of these contracts that they currently have, that they're not going to be offloading all these properties. If those things were said, then it's illegal, basically. I'm sorry. Sorry, I was muted on Clubhouse. Sorry about that, guys.
Did you actually read the quote from Rich Barton that was, "No, we're stronger than ever. iBuying is amazing"?
No. So, all right, let me bring up. Is it in that article?
I think so. I forget which one it's in, but
so that's why shareholders are up in arms and why they're suing. So, and as a matter of fact, we even covered one of the reporters that was on the call says to Rich Barton, "You're talking about this a lot differently than you have in the past." That's what the reporter said when they were starting to wind it down, trying to stay on the good side of this, CEO of one of the most powerful real estate companies, while also trying to say like, "Hey, what's going on here?" All right. So Zillow's chief operating officer, Jeremy Waxman, virtually appeared this September at a conference held by an investment banking company, Piper Sandler, and proclaimed, quote, "The strength and the appeal for Zillow offers just continues to grow. And we're even more confident now that this is going to be a service really in all weather markets."
Yeah, that one. There you go. So it's just in September.
All right.
It was like, dude, all hands on deck. We're doing great. We're killing it.
And they're going to expand it, basically all weather markets
everywhere.
6 weeks after Waxman's remarks, Zillow said that it was winding down the iBuyer program responsible for the majority of the company's revenue and operating expenses. Zillow CEO Rich Barton stated Zillow offers price forecasting model was too volatile. In other words, there's estimates were not working. A pair of
Too
lawsuits on behalf of Zillow
volatile.
investors cites this statement by Waxman and similar rosy claims in 2021 by Barton Alex Parker, the company's chief financial officer, as illegally misleading investors. Shareholders routinely, yes.
These aren't claims from when
These
after the
aren't a long
Rona
time
hit
ago.
and we started building, and they're like, oh wow, the market's great. iBuying is these are now 3 months ago, but right before 6 weeks later, then they paused and then totally shut it down. I mean, that's this is where, okay, so when we said like, will more sellers come out of the woodwork? Sure, I think they will, but will it go anywhere? Does it have legs? I don't know
Right.
about that. This to me has legs because it could fall under intentionally misleading.
Well, yeah, and so here's a quote though that I think may settle down some of this as well. It says shareholders routinely file lawsuits if a company's stock price plunges, and these cases are no different. So this is also something that we don't hear a lot about. So I don't, are the claims valid, or is this something that just kind of happens and then they have to fight it and then they're going to be fine? I don't know.
Right, but
Zillow
like, so if I'm an investor in Zillow stock and just it's not, they're not buying as many or whatever, the CEOs, and it's just their performance, and I was like, all right, I'm going to sue you because this is
and that commonly happens where you have a $50 billion profile and now, or portfolio, and now it's 13 or 14 billion.
Right.
You're going to be like, oh, I got to sue.
But
so
there was,
Zillow's market value was at 48 billion in February. Following the company earnings report, its market cap was at 13.8 billion at the close of NASDAQ trading Monday.
But but you could just blame the market or wherever it's going. But this is direct quotes from executives saying, no, we're good. They're steering people somewhere.
Materially false or misleading statements. That's in violation of the Securities Exchange Act. The first shareholder lawsuit was lodged 16th. Besides the company, Barton, Parker, and Waxman are each named as co-defendants.
Read that next one.
The second lawsuit was filed. That one?
No, the one right above that.
The case has been assigned to Thomas Zilli, the judge presiding over the real estate brokerage Rex's lawsuit against Zillow.
The same guy.
And the National Association of Realtors.
That's the same guy. That's interesting.
Yeah. The second lawsuit, other lawyers. All right. I mean, it kind of gets into the details. You can read all of this stuff at Housing Wire rundown, and it's probably the best that we found. Oh, Dan, sorry. Dan is resetting his camera. It's probably the best. That's the best summation of this whole situation that I found. And I think it puts it in plain writing that not only is this something that you should watch, specifically if you're a shareholder, but it's also something that could be normal and run of the mill whenever someone's stock plunges 75%.
And also, if you're a shareholder, are you holding on still? Are you still holding shares? Are you still like, nope, they'll rebound? Like, what do you think?
Now's the time to buy, right? It's 75% off or something. There's one more article from the Real Deal. Let me bring this up just so you can see. Now the Real Deal we know is a little bit more incendiary. These it says estimate these two Zillow iBuying lawsuits will
even that picture is more incendiary. I mean, come on.
I mean, their whole thing. It's a good little real estate tabloid though.
Embattled CEO Rich Barton.
Yeah. But this was the quote that they brought. Put simply, our observed error rate has been far more volatile than we ever expected possible. It makes us look far more like a leveraged housing trader than a market maker we set out to be. That's what Rich Barton said originally.
Dude, I gotta say, man, over the last 4 years of covering Zillow and having Zillow in our stories, they are great at spinning some yarn. I mean, dude, we can no longer support this closing. Our AI was much more volatile than we thought, and now we're this when we thought we were going to be. I mean, they are good. Their
PR team is amazing.
They are some spin doctors.
Yeah. So we'll keep you guys posted on what we see. And the reason why I love talking about what we've predicted and seeing that things come true. We were even talking about this. We said, well, okay, so all this is happening at the time. We were talking about $2 billion of assets being mishandled. And I made the comment, surely someone has to be responsible. Like it's got to fall on somebody who's going to get fired. Somebody has to be fired, hired. There's got to be a change whenever you mishandle $2 billion in assets.
Yeah.
What I didn't know was the other 5 billion at the time. So now there's a total of like $7 billion. If you just take the average prices, multiply it by the 18,000 homes or whatever it was, that's a more responsibility. And now we're seeing that the stock price is tanking and shareholders are going after the leadership team. So
and before we
now,
move
as
on,
far as the home search portal, it's a great website for that.
Absolutely. And that's what I wanted
to have to know. A high percentage of properties you see are actually not available, but that's because their job in this home search portal is to send leads to real estate agents, which they happen to be good at. They're great at that. So why? I guess they're probably going to go back to their bread and butter.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. So is this whole thing with lawsuits coming and stock prices down, is this the end of Zillow?
That's a good good thing to bring to chat in Clubhouse.
Yeah, there you go. So Ryan, right there. Is this the end of Zillow? Let's talk about it. But that's my first question. And then actually see if we have anything, because then I'm going to ask about iBuying specifically, but see if we have anything in Clubhouse that anyone wants to go on.
I'll bring up Ryan. He's in Clubhouse. Ryan, is this the end of Zillow?
Simple answer, no, because they have diversified themselves inside of the space. Complex answer, I think that Zillow is going to hurt for a little while because one, they've even lost more face with the industry as a whole. They've lost face with consumers. But when your investors start questioning what you're doing, that's when you know that you're in real trouble. And I think that they've crossed that line, whereas before their investors were in line with what they were doing, and the the maturation of some of the things that they were working on, the diversification of the different assets that they were building inside of the space. But you lose faith of your investors and you're in trouble. So I think that their saving grace is going to be their diversification in the industry. And if they can figure out how to make some of that money back within their diversified assets, then I think that they'll be around for a while.
It's a fantastic point. They got to prove to the shareholders that they're doing something to get the money back, right?
And is it, one of the big questions whenever a company goes public, you can no longer run your company like you want to. You have to run your company tied to the stock price. And that's been one of the big complaints. And, Apple was slow to go public. A bunch of companies didn't really, even when they did, they don't want to tie themselves to the investors. So investors are like saying, well, you guys aren't innovating enough. They're like, okay, well, whatever. And they don't really pay attention to it. I don't think Zillow has that luxury since they've acquired so much debt in part through this whole iBuying scheme. And we were talking about the millions of dollars that they lost. So I think they have to get this thing back up. Is saying that we're going to refocus or redouble our efforts on what's made us most popular before. Is that enough? They have tried to buy Showing Time that may have gone through now. So we'll diversifying more into those other parts.
Well, Darcy has a great point. Amazon will buy them.
Yeah. Darcy Brizano with the quote of the day. Amazon will buy them.
Which would be, think about that. Remember when Zillow started getting into all this stuff, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, we would say what? Amazon has become the one-stop shop. You just go there, you push a button, and the thing shows up at my house. That's what Zillow, and again, 3-4 years ago on the show, we're talking about, that's what they want to do. They want to make it, you push a button and you sell your house. Will that ever work? That's what we used to always talk about. Will this work? Will people trust it? All that stuff. So wouldn't that be an ironic turn if Amazon buys them?
Super ironic. Let's see. Eric Edge. He says,
isn't it ironic?
Don't you think?
Don't you think?
All right. So thanks again for the contributors and everybody that sent us those articles. Wait, we got something else? What?
No, I get updates on my phone. I have notifications, and I just got the Inman Zillow cancels 400 Zillow offers contract.
50 cents. What? 50?
I love that guy. He's a good rapper.
He ain't gonna buy it. All right. All right. So let's talk about the next article. We've been saying for like 2 years. It was even pre-Rona and everything. Hey, look at that. Melissa Mara. It's her first comment today. Hey, thanks for showing up.
She was a vampire. What'd she say in the thing? She was a vampire, so she couldn't. What was she? Something about a vampire?
What? Oh yeah. She
in
said, "Fun
our
fact:
chat.
that video was filmed on the lovely Garden State Parkway." Oh, really? The whole Alanis Morissette?
And you know, an extra fun fact: it rained the day before, so they had to pay extra to shoot that video there.
Really? No. That's ironic. Oh, okay. I thought you were being serious. Sorry, you got me.
Just riffing on the rain tax that they have. It's a thing.
Too ironic. Oh yeah, the rain tax.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about this next article. We've been saying for like 2 years that the news headline you guys will be looking for, which goes to show you that reporters are looking for clickbaity headlines because we believe the market's going to continue to be strong and home prices will continue to go up. But we said just be prepared, because as soon as the home price gains start to go down, you're going to see a headline that says home price gains slow.
We predicted exactly that, right?
Well, today I present to you.
Well, remember the what, 3 months ago we started saying, hey, we started saying it on the show. It's cooling.
Yes.
Now the coffee's still hot, but it's still going to burn your tongue. You know, it's not as hot as it was, but it's not piping hot. It's just pretty hot, and you should probably blow on it a little more. But we said it, and then we started seeing it in articles.
Yep.
And then now what is there? And by the way, this happened yesterday when we're live on our pre-show, our show prep show on Clubhouse. I was searching for stuff and I went,
yeah, here it is. Home price gains slow. Yeah. Right on. Exactly right. So we are going to toot our horn a little bit and let you know that home price gains slow down for the first time since May of 2020. So now we know that the market is going to crash because everyone's predicting it. But
Susie is finally right.
Yes, Susie is finally right. It's all going to crash now because home price gains slow. Now, I have to admit that when we first started seeing these headlines was 4 years ago when we started the show. We would see a headline that says home price gains slow. And we're like, oh,
we were kind of confused. Like
we kept seeing it. It would be like a repeating headline, home price gains slow, home price gains slow. And we're like, why is this so negative? When we looked at the data, we were still seeing that home prices still continued to go up.
Still.
It just went up at a slower rate.
Slower.
So it's not like it wasn't even that big of a deal. Well, this is the new incendiary headline, home price gains slow.
So after about hitting it, like 4 or 5 times on the show, seeing this headline, we switched how we say it to home prices are still gaining. They just slowed your gains.
Yeah.
But
you're still making money.
But it's
just a little bit slower. All right. So home prices are still considerably higher than they were a year ago when the pandemic caused a massive run on housing. But the gains are finally starting to ease up.
Yeah.
Okay. So home prices rose 19.5% in September year over year. That's really high. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago when we were talking about double-digit increases was super rare, and that was insanely high.
Yeah.
And it was down from a whopping 19.8% annual gain in August. Yep.
What'd you say?
Home prices rose 19.5% in September year over year, but it was so far down. I mean, the where it was previously was 19.8%. So
wait, no, what?
19.5.
You're misreading that. I can't see the article. You're reading that. It must be you're not saying 19.5. It's 14.2 or something. It went down 5%, right?
No. Let me zoom in. 19.5 in September year over year, down from 19.8 in August. So obviously a huge decrease.
So this headline that we've been predicting for years, 2 years, is based on a 0.3% drop.
Yeah. I mean, huge.
Hold on a sec. Hold on.
Huge drop. It's the T, sis.
That's the T, sis.
All right. So the 10-city composite rose 17.8% from a year ago. That's down from an 18.6% gain in August.
Okay, well, that's huge. I apologize. That's
obviously
huge. And then look at this one.
The 20-city composite index gained 19.1% year over year, down from 19.6% in the previous month.
Okay, so this is pissing me off. This is making me angry now. So think about this. What if you're a seller and you just see headlines and you're like, home price gains are slowing? Oh my gosh. I've now missed out on the hottest market ever. The market's dead. I can't do this. And buyers are like, yeah, I'm gonna buy now. Home price gains slow. And you don't watch our show to get the meat and potatoes behind the headlines. It's you're still, it's not, it didn't go from and by the way, this is month to month, Ray. This is just month to month.
Yeah.
So it didn't go from 6.8 to 6.5%. It went from almost 20% down to 19.5%.
Yeah, it went from almost 20% to almost 20%, really.
Right. 20%. I mean, do the math on that on a $400,000 house.
So Craig Lazara is a managing director of the S&P Dow Jones indices. So, managing the Dow, he sees lots of price increases and decreases. Yeah. So he's used to like seeing huge drops, and kind of, he would be a voice of reason in this. He said, if I had to choose one word to describe September of 2021's housing price data, the word would be deceleration. What?
What?
Really?
Dude, I can't. Okay, so here.
But he follows that. He does follow it up. Let me give you the follow-up. He said housing prices continue to show remarkable strength in September, though the pace of those price increases declined slightly. So why is that deceleration? It's really not that much of a deceleration.
I know, but how he makes it sound like, okay, so I'm in my, let's just say I'm in a limited, Audi R8. It can only go 155 miles an hour because there's a speed cap on it. I can only go 155. You take that off, it's a 200 mile an hour car. Woo. Actually, you know what? Screw it. Let's say there's no cap on it. I can go 200 miles an hour. I'm going 200 miles an hour in my Audi R8. I love that car. And how they're making it sound is that I decelerated in half a second down to 55 miles an hour because I saw a cop. No, I went from 200 to 199.2, like a 0.3%. I mean, this is.
It's like
they need headlines. They need headlines, is what they need.
It's like your ankle got tired of putting the pedal to the metal, so just let it just slightly. So the market is cool.
You didn't have it on autopilot. You just I slowed down. That's a huge deceleration there. My point is, if you're going 200 miles an hour car, you're going to be used to it. You're not going to feel a 0.3% deceleration. Whew, all right. Sorry, I'm getting a little hot on this one. My bad.
Now, some people would look at the time of year, maybe like Darcy Brazano, and say, well, it's winter. Some people would look at the time of year and say, well, could this be a normal seasonal deceleration? Because last year we didn't have one because of the pent up demand from buyers. And so that's why it feels a little bit weird this year.
Some people could maybe say that.
Perhaps some people could definitely say that. But not the news anchors, because they want you to watch their show. The market has cooled since the beginning of the year when dozens of competing bids, contingency waivers, and price acceleration clauses made home shopping a struggle, especially for first-time buyers. A growing number of homeowners are preparing to list in the next 6 months, hinting at an uncharacteristically active winter season. For listings, and we'll see about that.
By the way,
he's a manager of economic research at Realtor.com.
To tease, I think 2 articles from now, we have another one that's going to just negate this entire article and this entire train of thought anyway. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
All right. So one more article. This is the one that Andy sent us. That's the actual data from S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Index. It reported. So this is another optional way to maybe get this same news out there. S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Index reports 19.5% annual home price gain in September.
Nice. That's a great headline.
That's a refreshing headline.
Yeah. I would. You know what I would love to see though? I would love to see their average clicks versus CNBC's average clicks.
Yeah.
On the same exact article, same data.
It's and some of the same quotes in this article too.
Yeah.
So they have all the data there. This one is from prnewswire.com. So you can go to PR Newswire and see some of those details there. It's a good article. It's got some of the same basic information, but it's far less
just
incendiary.
Charts and facts, it looks like.
So I don't know if you're a fan of less incendiary, but if you are, check out that one. All right. Good. So let's talk about. Let me see if we have any. Oh no! What is the Clubhouse still going? Unmute yours.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh man, my phone died. I don't know how long it's been off.
Just now. You were just there a second ago.
Just there a second ago. All right. Well, all right. Here, I'm gonna
I'm
join
still here,
the
so you can
room.
just jump back in, right?
Yeah. I can jump back in, but you'll have to. It's loading now. See, loading.
Yeah.
Right as we were approaching the last article, too. Terrible.
And they can't hear me because I have my headset in. And if
well, you could unmute it.
Okay.
Yeah, you could unmute it for now. Let them know what's going on.
Hey, Dan, we can't hear. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. See,
they're
all trying to get our attention.
He popped out of the group, so I unmuted. Usually, I have to mute during the show, but yeah, he popped out. His phone died. He's logging in back now. He'll be back in just a second.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to. It's like,
maybe he won't. I don't know.
We may just have to use yours. Yeah, man, this is like it's always working perfect right before there. Okay, now I'm in it. All right,
yeah,
bearded is there.
You go, buddy.
All right, you can mute yours now.
We were enjoying it, and then but you guys are still on YouTube, right?
Yeah, YouTube
we
and
are.
Facebook still. And Ray's back in now. I think he should be here any second.
All right. Yeah, you mute yours. That way we don't. All right, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. So this is the backup phone. We are back. We are back. We are also streaming this on YouTube and Facebook. So if you happen to lose us again, catch us there. But I want to get to Ron real quick because he's in the room and I have limited battery. So Ron, the government-backed mortgages are up to $970,000. So someone could buy almost $1 million home. Let me bring this article up so people can see what we're talking about here. Someone could buy almost $1 million home with a government-backed mortgage.
And I want to know what down payment that requires. I want to hear that.
Yeah. So here are the details real quick. The Federal Housing Finance Agency, FHFA, today announced the baseline conforming loan limit for 2022 will be $647,000. That's an increase of 18%. I feel like they just had an increase to I can't remember what it was, like 400 something. Maybe that was the FHA increase that we're talking about.
Over the last 6 years, it's gone up $200,000.
Yeah, the federal government will now back mortgage loans of nearly $1 million with a new ceiling loan limit for one-unit properties in most high-cost areas. Now $970,800, or 150% of the $647,000. Special statutory provisions establish different loan limit calculations. Large metropolitan areas tracked by FHFA saw house price increases. Boise, Idaho. Basically, they're saying due to the incredible amount of home price increases that now these government-backed mortgages are also going to go up to kind of compensate for that. So is this going to be a huge win for home buyers, or is this... What do you think the overall impact of this is going to be, Ron? Is it like they're catching up and now it's just finally back to normal and they've been behind so long? Or is this going to be a huge win for buyers, Ron?
I think it's going to be a huge win for buyers. I mean, if you look at, so my wife and I, we moved from Southern California. And, we were used to in Los Angeles, the higher conforming limits, right? The super conforming. So those high balance loans, they were in the, the sevens, and then they crept up to the 800s. And now it's at, 970 for those high balance. The significance of that is now you essentially, it looks more like a jumbo loan, but it's not based off of the jumbo loan characteristics where you have to, typically where you're confined to 43 debt to income ratio, or you have to have 6 months of reserves, or they may scrutinize based on self-employment. So now if you have the majority of loans that are pooled together where they're under the conforming standards and they're for 970, I mean, that's a huge win. It's a massive win. And when we moved to Dallas in 2018, we bought a home in 2020, and in 2020, the conforming loan limits were 510, 200, right? So we had to, because we were, we qualified for conforming and didn't really qualify on the jumbo side, and didn't even want the jumbo side to begin with because the rates were so high because of COVID. Right. We had to put more down, right? Because the minimum was 5%, but that was at 510, but our home was above that. So we had to actually put more into the transaction. So had we been able to this year, right? If we bought it this year, it would have been 548, 200, in which case we would have only had to put down the 5%. Well, now at 647, that overshot what most people were even thinking. So earlier, I would say about a month ago or even 2 months ago, we were all told that it was going to look more like 625, but now it's up to 647, 200. That's massive. That's $100,000 gain between last year and this year, and it's all about the home appreciation across the country. So it is a massive opportunity for home buyers, and it just brings in more buyers into listings. It brings them into the fold. So I'm huge on this. I think it's very exciting.
And Dan and I have kind of been joking for a long time that although we have these good things that are bringing in more buyers, that still could cause an issue of affordability, because now you have more people that can afford more, right? So that does sound good, Ron, but at the same time, that further pushes a lot of these homes out of reach from people that were hoping to afford them, as
I'm
now you
gonna
have
say it
more
again.
bidders at a higher price.
I say it every
My
single
biggest
time.
concern right now. So my biggest concern right now is what's happening with inflation, right, and what's happening with the Fed. So the Fed, to keep the economy going during COVID, they bought $80 billion of mortgage-backed securities and treasuries every week during COVID. And they announced a few months ago where they said, okay, we're going to slow that down, right? We don't need to buy $80 billion because obviously the economy is moving right along. So they said, we're going to slow it down, otherwise known as taper. So one thing that hit the headlines, Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, spoke yesterday, and he said, regardless of the Omni whatever variant, we're still going to continue to taper, and we're going to continue at the same level, right? Most people were thinking, oh, well, maybe you don't do that because you're going to, there's going to be some issues with the whole new variant. Well, he said, no, we're going to continue down that path. The other thing he did is he removed the word transitory when it came to inflation. So last month in October, it was printed at 6.2% for inflation. And while most economists said, oh, that's kind of scary because the Fed has set a target at 4% max, right? And they said they'll let it run a little hot, but 6.2 is a lot hot. And they said, okay, well, as long as it's transitory, where it goes from, this is just as a reaction to COVID, where people just wanted to get out and they're paying higher prices. But now if you remove that language, the chairman actually said he expects this going into next year. So if you have tapering and you have inflation and we have to, start raising the Fed funds rate, it's going to hit mortgage rates. And it already has. We already got pricing alerts, repricing alerts for the worst yesterday throughout the cycle, even though the 10-year was going down. So it's one of those things where it is going to, if you're right there on the border and you were, you're pre-approved at 3.25 at 400,000, and that's your limit, and you can't find homes anything below that, you're in trouble, right? You're going to have a real challenge going into the next, year. But if you were pre-approved at $1 million and you were, your debt to income ratio, you were fine and you can qualify for much more, then fine. Okay. But what's key right now is to reset and actually look and make sure you stress test any sort of pre-approval, just to make sure that your buyers, or you as a buyer, that you can actually afford it if rates are going to continue to go up.
There you go. Good advice, Ron. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining the show today and giving us your tidbit, your expert insight into what this means.
Can I just point out how awesome that is? Getting real-time advice and input from, live, right with the show here from an actual lender that I looked at his profile. Hey, Chicago native, lived in LA for 16 years. Now they're in Dallas. So he understands the markets or the how this works in different markets. That's awesome to be able to get that, and I don't know any other show that brings that. So
there you go.
I'm stoked. That's really, really cool.
Thanks, Ron. And we'll kind of continue to keep an eye on this too. But one of the things we've been telling our clients is our agents is to do some math, do some calculations on what somebody can buy now with, a 3% rate versus what they'll be able to buy in the future with a 3.25% rate. And then let people know that, hey, home prices are going to continue to increase. We're going to see home price gains slow, but they're going to continue to go up. So if home prices are going to continue to go up and we have an increase in interest rate, then not only is the money more expensive for you to borrow to put in on a property, so is the house that you want to buy. And Mike Elizabeth Rodell says, I think it's great for most buyers. They bought a house for 835, didn't have to put anything down. That was cool. And they got $700 more. And rate was 2.75. And they said being able to finance 100% allowed us to move before selling. So of course it's going to be different for your own individual situations, but that's just a story that, I mean, hey, it could create a lot of convenience with this new program. All right, so I'm talking fast, and that's because my battery on my backup phone is also low. So I've got one plugged in over here trying to charge up, but I don't think we'll be able to be there. So I want to get real quickly to this next story, and then I have a hard out on it too. Yeah. This next story says pending home sales rebound sharply in October despite rising mortgage rates. So buyers came roaring back to the housing market in October as even mortgage rates rose. Signed contracts on existing homes, so-called pending home sales, jumped 7.5% from September, according to the National Association of Realtors, and we're still 1.4% lower than October of 2020.
But jumped, that's a huge jump to me. That's 7+%. That's big.
It did say that the last fall marked a cyclical high in the housing market. So we were talking about that due to the pent-up demand because of the pandy. This quote is from Lawrence Yun, his NAR's chief economist. He said, motivated by fast rising rents and anticipated increase in mortgage rates, consumers that are on strong financial footing are signing contracts to purchase a home sooner rather than later, said Lawrence Yun, NAR's chief economist. This solid buying is a testament to demand still being relatively high, as it is occurring during a time when inventory is markedly low. And then there's other details on this, but you guys can see that article at CNBC. But it seems like, with home prices where they are, we know that refinances are considerably more sensitive to those rate changes. And it's been a big question as the rate starts to increase, what's going to happen. But I've said this now for a couple of months that I believe, and I think Ron said this too when he was on our show before, but I believe that as the rate continues to increase, your cat is like going nuts right now. Sorry, for those of you not watching on YouTube, Dan's cat is attacking him and his microphone. In a loving way, I should say. But I think as soon as rates start to tick back up closer to like 3.5, 3.25, 4, as they go on up, people are going to basically panic and say, oh my gosh, we have to buy now. If we're going to buy, we got to go. And I think they're going to jump back. So I think it's going to actually push people into the market before we get into the 4s and up.
But is there going to be enough inventory is what I'm questioning. Because the article does mention, let's see, home buyers, especially those on the lower end of the market, continue to find very few houses listed for sale. Total housing inventory at the end of October stood at about 1.25 million units, down almost a full percentage at 0.8%.
Yeah. So, I think that's going to be up to us as real estate agents, communicating the situation and going door knocking. We talked about door knocking in one of my meetings today. Some of those old school tactics to find the inventory, I think that's going to be up to us as professionals to find it. And if we don't find it, then our clients are going to be the ones that hurt from it. So your cat's still crazy.
It's just
all those sounds for the audio listeners. All of those sounds, I'm going to mute it because all of those sounds are like terrible for people wearing headphones. Matt LaMarche, he said, also go Dogs beat Bama. And great job, Ron. You really malarched that. So thanks for joining the conversation, Matt. All right. So, Dan, before we get out of here, would you tell people where they could find you?
You can find me wrangling. I'm herding cats currently. I'm a cat herder.
Literally.
Jeez. There's cat hair all over the joint. And I usually get through the show without them doing anything. But the last 2 shows,
they've wanted to make an appearance.
They've been really, really wanting to make an appearance. But everywhere. You can go to D Ludwig Rocks, DLUDWIG ROCKS here on Clubhouse or on Instagram is where I post most of my stuff. And I apologize if I don't follow back on Clubhouse because I'm at 69 followers.
Nice.
And I may keep it there. Where can they find you, Ray?
You guys can find me at Ray Zorback. That's RAYZORBACK on the Instagrams or on the what Facebooks, YouTubes, TikToks, wherever good Razorbacks are sold. So find me there. We're going to be posting a lot more. Hopefully we'll be posting some short versions and clips from the show. They're going to have a hard time finding clips that were actually technically sound today. So, but hopefully we'll get some of those out there. But follow us. Well, I'll collab with Dan too. So if you're following Dan, now due to the new collaboration feature on Instagram. You should see it on both of our accounts, which makes it nice. We don't have to double post.
And we haven't planned this yet, but we have a year-end extravaganza coming up. So
every year we do a year-end extravaganza. We call it the last show of the year, and we have guests. So if you have been a contributor to the show, you're going to be first up on this. So if you want to join us live, we are going to reach out to some of you. But if you're like, oh, I'd like to do that, and you show up and you come to the show and contribute in any way, then you're going to be a shoe in for it. You'll appear on video with us, and everybody will be able to hear you on Clubhouse and stuff too, which will be cool. We also make predictions on the year-end show about what's going to happen, as Mike Elizabeth Rodell points out.
We go back. And we go back. Remember, so we made predictions last year at the end of, what year is it? At the end of 2020, we made predictions. So we check on how we all did.
Yes.
And none will ever beat Pete's prediction. He literally predicted an impeachment. But we go back and check our predictions and see how we did, and then we make new ones. So
the only show I know that actually goes back to look at the actual predictions of the economy to see how correct or
and the biggest one that's always the toughest is rates, and they've been so all over the place. So I'm curious to see. I know what I predicted, and I know where I stand.
I can't remember. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it. So anyway, well, thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and end it here before Clubhouse automatically logs me out with my second backup battery. I mean, it's been a 2-charge day already, and then when my backup phone battery is dead, that's just how the day has gone. So I appreciate you guys bearing with us through the technical difficulties. Michael Elizabeth Rodell said, "If only Susie would go back." Yes, Susie Orman needs to go back and take a check. So, all right, thank you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Say bye, Kitty.
Bye.
Bye.